All right, hello everybody. This is Keith Butler with my co-host Jeffrey Lowe, and I'd like to welcome you guys back to the Hook Podcast here in the Six-Hole Studio located in Detroit, Michigan. We're looking out here on another beautiful day. It's about 60 some odd degrees out here, Jeff.
Yes,
great, man.
it's a beautiful day. Well, I mean, it's not a beautiful day. I mean, it's a great day because we're here.
Well, it's been better than what it's normally been. No rain, rained a little bit last night.
Yeah.
The golfers are back on the course.
They're out there.
Getting the swings in.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about something that's been a ongoing issue here around the world, the Russian-Ukraine conflict. And with us to discuss that, we've got retired Major U.S. Army Larry Johnson. Hey, Larry, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great on this cloudy, somewhat sunny day in the great state of Michigan and the great city of Detroit.
Yeah, we'd like to thank you for joining us. And, we're going to get right into it. It's a serious conflict. Something crazy is going on around the world. Russia just decided they're going to put the smack down on the Ukraine for who knows why. I don't know. But that's why we got you out here because, being U.S. military intelligence, you might have a little more idea what it's all about. So we just want to know the how, the why, and what are the possible outcomes of this that could affect the Ukraine, Russia, and the world. Take it away.
Okay, that's kind of long, deep, complicated. And I'll just simply say that the seeds of this conflict starts within the mind of Vladimir Putin. Mm. And the obsession since World War II under Joseph Stalin, and even really before that, with having a buffer against the Western nations.
Now, what do you mean by that? Having a buffer. What do you mean by that?
That the West has always been viewed, in some respects, as a threat to the Soviet Socialist Republics, aka Russia. And so I guess this goes back to Napoleon's time period when he invaded, imperial Russia. And so the Russians and the Soviets have always viewed the West as a threat. And so they believe that, much like the Chinese, that if I have territory to buffer me against you, okay, then I'll be much safer. I'll be better off. Okay. And so there's always been this obsession that there has to be buffer states. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but that's what I really...
Go ahead.
But that's really, what I mean. And so you saw that right after World War II when Stalin occupied the Baltic states, Bulgaria, Romania. He fostered a civil war in Greece. Don't forget they attacked Finland. And so if you can imagine, look at a map, you see these buffer states, these rings around Russia. And so it's literally having a territorial buffer between the Western states and Greater Russia.
Oh, okay. Wow. Now tell me, how big of a threat is this to the U.S. As far as Putin is concerned? I hear that Putin is ill right now. He's an ill man, they say. But I mean, but as far as a leader of a country, but how big of a threat is Russia? Because Russia, I mean, there are McDonald's in Russia. There's Tim Hortons
and Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Russia, Kentucky Fried Chicken in Russia. We have already invaded Russia with our values, some of our values, Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's.
Well, don't confuse greed and capitalist funneling of dollars the same as accepting our values.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And so, the long and short of it is that, of course, it's only rumored that Vlad, as we would say, is sick.
Okay.
But when you take an authoritarian mindset, one would say that they tend to be obsessive, narcissistic, not naming any other narcissists. And so you have to look at those assessments with the jaundiced eye, okay, as to whether or not he's sick and so forth. But the long and short of it is that Russia has the second most powerful, military in the world. They have nuclear capability. We can destroy the Earth several times over. And so the question is whether or not ultimately this could lead to an all-out nuclear war. The question is whether or not the war would expand into territories outside of the Ukraine. For the last 20 years, ever since Chairman Beltsin conceded to Vladimir Putin the presidency, in Russia, you've had this approach to wine and dine the West. You've had this approach by the Russians and also the Chinese to say that, oh yeah, we can do business with those guys. But all the time, Putin has kept his eyes on dismantling, disrupting the influence of the West, but certainly specifically the United States.
That's like his hand in the Trump election and so forth. Huh?
Yeah, but not only that, but when you start going through and looking at white supremacists and alt-right movements throughout Europe, places like Norway, France, in the Balkan states, you clearly see the hands, some would say, of the KGB, the former KGB. I think their name has changed, but you clearly see the hand of Putin. And, Malcolm Nance, former naval intelligence guy, wrote a book back in 2015 before Trump, the hacking of America. The threat that Putin posed was very clear to people within the intelligence community. He's always attempted, if not to, I like the word undermine, create doubt with respect to the resiliency of NATO, which is a military alliance that was formed after World War II, but also the powered influence of the West. And we've fought proxy wars with the old Soviet socialist republics in Africa, in the Caribbean. So if nothing else, they've never not conceded that the West was their enemy. I mean, that's kind of sophomore approach. It's more complicated than that, but it's about influence. It's about money. Some would say it's also about greed, but more importantly, it's about influence. It's about standing. There's always been Russia historically, some would say, as the bastard child of the West, never really fully being embraced by the West, because there's more eastern parts of Russia than there are western parts of Russia when you look at the map. Okay, but yeah, the long and short answer is that the fear is that we could lead to an expanded war on the territories of Europe. That is a fear. I mean, that's legitimate. It's scary. And so that's why it was really, really critical for Biden to bring the allies together. And when I say the allies, I'm specifically talking about our NATO allies, where we have agreements, non-aggression, pact agreements and so forth, with these countries. And Putin has always feared that countries like Poland and Finland, Sweden and Norway and other countries around Russia would join the NATO alliance. And And its worst fear is about to come true because Finland has said that they are looking closely at possibly changing their status within the alliance. You have also Turkey that has status within the NATO alliance. You have Norway looking closely and considering. They've got to go through they've got to have debates within their country as to what it means. But the bottom line is that many have realized that the old Soviet approach has not gone away with Vlad Putin. That he's an existential threat. He's a real threat, and they've all felt Russia's underhanded hand in their internal politics as well as threats on their border. Finland has an 800-mile border with Russia. So no, this is real to a lot of folks because Finland was invaded in World War II by Joseph Stalin.
Okay.
So now,
I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, that's pretty clear answer, Larry. That lets me get a better idea because I'm not very familiar with it. We keep up with it little by little, but I'm not as in depth with it as you are, obviously. But now,
some people would argue. Okay, some people will argue, and it's hard to tell. When you're in the cat seat, that his intentions have always been known. The intelligence community, from me looking from the outside in, have all said that no, this guy does not mean well, because you have to look at all the things that they've been doing around the world, along with the Chinese Communist Party and fostering proxy wars and funneling terrorist activities, in places like sub-Saharan Africa, and so forth. But people have concluded that he can't be trusted, and that President Obama's response should have been a lot more forceful when Putin invaded Crimea, as well as when he went to the southeastern part of Ukraine. They invaded that as well. The population in that part of Ukraine is predominantly ethnic Russian, and so he used that as a proxy. I think Hitler did the same thing in World War II with the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, saying, well, these are really our people. And so there have been fighting in that region since 2014. And we've had military, the United States has had, along with some of its NATO allies, have had military assistance programs with the Ukrainians, certainly since that time period. At the time that we got the Ukrainians to give up all their nuclear weapons in order to maintain some semblance of peace. But when they gave up their nuclear weapons, what was inferred and what was promised is that there would be some modicum of protection from NATO and the Western Alliance. Well, the rubber has hit the road. Some have felt the United States should have been a lot more forceful when Putin made his moves in the eastern part of Ukraine as well as Crimea, and that gets into history that goes back before the Ottoman Empire.
Wow. Now you went back to Obama.
Yep.
And let's go to that guy that was between Obama and Biden. That guy by the name of Dumbass. Trump. That's his name. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I could just say that according to Malcolm Nance and in his writings and his exposés, as well as his punditry on MSNBC and another, that he feels as though Mr. Trump was always or has been a Russian asset
in the
by the
pocket.
things that he's done over the years. Him expressly moving to dismantle and weaken the United States alliance with NATO. The fact that he was trying to get Congress to reduce the sanctions on Putin that was imposed under the Obama administration when he invaded Crimea. And so, because most of their dollars, Russia's not a very diversified economy. Much of their economy and wealth has been geared towards some agriculture like wheat, but primarily petroleum-based products, fossil fuels. And so, we've had sanctions on Russia since that time period. And so, it was obvious to some, and for others, had a hard time working whether or not a president of the United States could be hostile to the goals and aspirations of the United States with a foreign power. And as a layman, I would say the evidence is clear that this guy has been an asset, if nothing else, by deed, with Putin. To include, I think there's ample proof. I think in the month of June, the January 6th committee is going to show ample proof. I think that the Trump campaign was given information through Russian intelligence assets to undermine, the Democratic position.
Yeah, I read somewhere, now that you mentioned that, Putin and the Russian government have been conditioning and training and prepping Trump. And this is what I read, to, do just what you said, to be a spy for the Russian government to help this.
Well, like I say, an asset.
U.S.
Because spy has a lot of connotation, but to be able to use you.
But to be used against your own
Let me use you. Okay. And so when you start looking at our foreign policy, essentially dismantling our State Department, which is unprecedented. We had no eyes and ears around the world. He attempted to dismantle our intelligence apparatus. Some would say, there are sources that would say that state secrets were also funneled to Russia by the Trump administration.
Okay, so and we've heard a lot about this, throughout the years, since this has been going on, since Trump got in office, and to me that sounds like treason, all out. And I've always thought that what he's done with Russia was, just flat out treason.
Well, I'm no lawyer.
Past, but
no other president, no other
president's done this.
Right. No other.
The president can be tried for treason.
And what's the penalty for treason?
Well, it can be. Death.
It can be. I mean,
it can be death.
But what's taking so long? I mean, and we're gonna flip the script just a little bit, and we'll get back to Ukraine, I guess. But you brought that up. You brought up Trump and his hand in it. I mean, it just seems totally obvious that this man has done all he can.
He invited him to the White House.
Well, that's no big deal.
Well, how come it's not? It's a big deal.
That's no big deal that you invite foreign dignitaries to the White House. But to be a puppet.
Russian foreign dignitary.
Why not? Okay. I don't mind that. But when you give up your government to another country, that's treason. And in years past, that's been punishable by death. And now, I'm not trying to get anybody murdered or killed or anything, but this guy should at least be doing time.
But what other president has invited Russia to the White House?
Well, Larry, you can answer that better than I can. You know, I'm not.
Well, I mean, Russians have always been invited, but it was the circumstances in which
Correct.
there was no presence of people who would ordinarily be in those meetings.
Okay.
Okay, that's what raised the ire of folks that it was essentially a closed meeting. And I think rumor has it that in that meeting, someone in the administration, it may have been Trump, blurted out some information that was given to the United States by one of our allies, okay, that would reveal that there was an American or at least friendly intelligence apparatus within the Putin camp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or certainly, as we would say, sensitive sources and means.
Right.
And so for us to have had that information meant that there was an intelligence operative or operation going on in the Kremlin, and that allegedly that information was given at that meeting.
Oh,
wow.
And I think, and so, but when we start talking about issues of treason and we start talking about prosecution, I think the thing that the current administration is doing is making sure that whatever prosecutions come forward, mainly focused on the January 6th. Remember, we already had in the impeachment proceedings with Donald Trump, allegedly a full investigation as to the role of Russia in our election and with this administration. He wasn't exonerated. He was not exonerated. But I think with the January 6th committee, when they lay out what they need to lay out this summer, a lot of the I's and T's will be crossed, because you do get into some legal gray areas as to the rules of evidence, who said what the whom, what the intent was, what was the subsequent consequences. And I think this administration is taking a step-by-step approach. So if there are any subsequent prosecutions for anything connected around January the 6th and usurping of our democracy, that the prosecution really stands an opportunity to actually, win. Mm-hmm. Now, there are others I've read who feel as though the Department of Justice has not moved fast enough or vigorously enough on the matter of the possible wrongdoing of Trump and his administration. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be debating that for a while. So all these are conversations going on around us, as we speak.
Right.
And so we, meaning the United States of America, mm-hmm. Under the last administration, I think everyone can concede, had a weakened position on the international stage that may have given a green light mm-hmm. To Putin to believe that he could invade the rest of Ukraine, and that there would not be any consequential action. And so that then goes into, well, what has really happened in Ukraine? Why haven't they succeeded in taking over their country? And kudos and hats off to the Ukrainian military folks and everyday citizens in the Ukraine, as well as support from NATO allies and really people from around the world. That includes everything from cyber warfare support from everyday ordinary citizens to weapons. And again, we've had training missions in Ukraine really for some time. Okay. We've been training the Ukrainian military folks. So my hat is off to all those folks who stepped up with an understanding that freedom ain't free.
Yeah.
This is not their first rodeo, with Russia. And as Russia brutalized the Ukrainian people under Joseph Stalin in the early, I think in mid 1930s, where under one of Stalin's 5-year plans, the people of Ukraine were essentially starved to death. So this is not their first rodeo. They've had no illusion as to who Putin is and the depth of what oppression really looks like and what it really means.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom is not free.
Right. Now
and go ahead.
What about this guy in Korea? This other guy that
North Korea,
yeah.
Kim Jong Un.
Yeah,
okay.
Kim Jong whatever his name is. Yeah, I mean, him and the Donald, they were shaking hands too, and
well, the Donald really didn't.
You just don't want anybody.
The
to be
Donald really
friends,
didn't understand.
Business.
Yeah, he really didn't understand how to do this, and so everyone doesn't operate on the same level of maliciousness and greed that our oligarchs and plutocrats operate.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't put everybody in the same boat. But yeah, Kim does not want to give up his nuclear weapons. He wants sanctions to go away. He wants money to flow. They've been cut off a lot. And in fact, rumor has it, their state of economy is in shambles. They're held up by the Chinese, and they're a pariah state, and they've been treated as such.
And see, that's the scary thing, Larry, because a wounded animal is extremely dangerous.
Well, it's been a very wounded animal. So he's been doing ballistic intercontinental tests over the past several months. There are issues with respect to unification talks with the South that was suspended. But now South Korea has elected a new president. I think his name is Yoon, Y-O-O-N. And so it remains to be seen as how he's going to approach the North Koreans and reestablishing unification talks. And the issue is whether or not it's going to be a Korea-to-Korea set of talks, whether or not it's going to include the United States and the two Koreas, whether or not it's going to include other allies like Japan. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very, the world has always been complicated, dangerous, stupid, and it's always been bad guys, good guys, and in between folks. Nothing has changed other than the fact that the world can kill itself with the lethality of weapon systems and so forth. So we're just seeing a lot of geopolitical machinations and maneuverings that have been ongoing for years and centuries, being played out, with different actors, but still the same stage, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Okay, Larry, we're running out of time. We got about 30 seconds left, and I just want to ask you right quick. The world governments are not unfamiliar with, let's say, eliminating people. Why can't we just get rid of these guys in 30 seconds or less? Well, I mean, I'm not.
We run longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not. Okay, I'm not up for murder and killing.
How about the rule of law?
But it's been done over the centuries.
Just put it like this: we stand on the rule of law, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Well, Larry, retired major, we appreciate your time. It was very, very enlightening. I hope our listeners can take away something from this, because I know I did. I think
I did also.
My co-host did, and our special guest who's sitting in here, Mrs. Tajamet Butler, my daughter. And we hope that you all enjoyed the show today. And we're going to thank our guest, Larry. Retired Major U.S. Army Larry
Well, thank
Johnson.
you.
I salute you and thank you for your service.
and
Yes.
all the time. And
All right,
that.
guys.
And this has been your host, Keith Butler, and his co-host, Jeffrey Lowe.
That guy.
Yes,
sir.
And this has been The Hook. And remember, the next time someone says, "Where did you catch that information?" Tell them you caught it on The Hook.